can never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star.
Ah, the joy of C19 TV and Meet Me at the Movies. I am Noel.
What's that supposed to mean? That sounded sarcastic.
Sounded very sarcastic.
Didn't it? That didn't sound sincere at all, did it, Christian?
I'm not feeling it.
Yay! I am a happy kind of guy. I do the happy dance at least 5 times a day.
Did you have a liquid lunch today or something?
No, I did not.
All right.
I did not. I am seeing spots because I was looking at these lights.
Well, you know, don't do that.
Don't look at the lights. Don't look at the lights. I'm Noel T. Manning II. Meet Me at the Movies. We talk movies each week. Beside me, to my right, that is Christian Jessup.
How's it going?
Critics' Choice Scholar. How are you, bud?
I'm doing well.
Welcome back.
Good to be back, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a beard going, but I shaved for the show. I didn't want me and Greg to be confused, so I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
that's a
think
good
that's
thing.
going to happen.
That's a good thing.
I'm glad he's back because it takes a lot of the pressure off of me. Because he actually watches movies.
I know, it's a lot less work, and actually, you know, the first half of the show, he's got 2/3 of it, so which is
Excellent.
pretty cool. So
may
we're
take
in
a
good
nap.
shape there. That over there, beside camera 1, that is Uncle Jesse. That's right, Uncle Jesse Duke for the Dukes of Hazzard. Welcome. Good to see you, man.
I'm getting that way.
Yeah,
aren't I?
John Rudisell recommended that name for you.
Thanks,
Tillman.
thanks. I saw his wife yesterday.
Did you
and
really?
I should have given her some grief to carry home to him.
Yeah, that is Greg Tillman. He is what's your official title here for this?
We gave him an official title.
Station manager.
Station manager.
C19 TV.
TV, that's it. See?
I guess.
Yeah, and
program director.
That's official.
And so, you know,
Chief bottle washer. I don't know.
and if I'm still on the show, evidently he can't find anybody else to do it, or he just said, okay, you're doing okay. So I'm thankful that I'm doing okay, or that he can't find anybody else to do it. Back in Mission Control, we can't do this show without, that's right, who is it this week? Oh, it is Timothy Cricket. Timothy Cricket on the Tim Cam. Timothy Cricket with the eyes.
Beautiful eyes.
Beautiful eyes. Look at that, man. That's
Yeah.
the extreme close-up.
I don't get what it's all about.
I don't either, man.
When you look deep into them, I
Yeah,
don't
they
get it.
are, you know, the eye drops I think would help with that. Also, who's behind you? Who's that back there behind you? Oh, Catherine Manning. Hey, Catherine. We'll have you out here after the break. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have Catherine and Christian back. And we're glad to be back, and we appreciate you joining us as well. Last week we had non-viewer mail. This week we actually have viewer mail. This comes from
That's
Randy.
harder to believe.
It is harder to believe. It really is. But a real viewer actually sent in this little bit of movie nugget trivia. This came from Randy Wright. Randy was talking about the movie serials that we talked about, and we're not talking about Lucky Charms.
Not talking about Lucky Charms? Okay.
Not talking about Lucky Charms.
You always have to clarify there for me.
Fruity Pebbles. No, this is movie episodic movie segments.
Okay.
Shorts that combined, you know, created a full story. And he collects a lot of these, and he was actually sharing some of these on YouTube, and he was reminding me that before the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the DC film universe, you saw a lot of these characters in the movie serials. Captain America was on there, Batman and Superman, and so he sent some of those clips. So it was pretty cool to see those and be reminded of that. So Randy, thanks so much for sharing that, and thanks for tuning in and watching.
Does he have a channel that you can go to see some of these
Yeah, he does, and I did not write that down, but I will see if I can get that for you, and we'll share that with you.
That'd
But
be
it's pretty
fun to
cool.
see.
Yeah. But as I was kind of researching the movie serials, he said he loved watching them during the 40s. And I don't know if I'm aging you there or dating you, but Randy, thanks for sharing that.
If he watched them when they were new, yeah,
Yeah. But you know, they actually started back in like the early 1900s.
Really?
And, yeah.
Silent shorts?
Yeah, and I didn't realize that
No,
until I
I
started
didn't
doing some research on it, and they lasted through the late 1950s, and they kind of died out in the 60s.
Television.
But in the 1960s, there was a TV show I remember watching as a kid called The Banana Splits.
Oh.
And
yeah.
it was kind of like the monkeys, you know, in animal costumes. And they would sing and dance, but they'd have these serials. There was one called Danger Island. I don't know if you remember it. Jan Michael Vincent
I don't.
starred in it, and each week you would have a different episode of that as part of this kind of variety show. It was the Banana Splits Variety Hour or something. But Jan Michael Vincent got his start on this.
didn't know that.
Richard Donner directed the Danger Island episodes.
Really?
Yeah. So a little bit of stuff that I found out after researching, but I remember the banana splits and remember that show in particular.
Wow.
So I think you can still find those on MeTV. They rerun some of the banana splits. So
And I think that's available on Spectrum.
what,
think it is.
MeTV? Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is. So anyway, Randy, thanks so much for sending your comments in. We really, really appreciate that. Viewer mail, you can send us your viewer mail or your non-viewer mail. info@c19.tv. Christian, you're going to take over now. There was a movie that you saw that starred Robert Downey Jr., Sherlock Holmes? No,
Not quite.
No, but it had Sherlock Gnomes.
Yeah, almost.
Sherlock Gnomes.
Almost
Oh,
there.
my.
So is this like a Sherlock Hobbit? Is this like if Sherlock Holmes were a Hobbit or what?
I guess that's one way you can look at it.
Give me some background.
So
on this movie.
this is a follow-up to the movie Romeo and Juliet. If you guys remember that coming out several years ago.
Greg loved it.
Greg's kind of rolling his
He
eyes
loved
over there.
it. He loved
I
it.
could imagine actually paying money. No, I shouldn't say that. Forget it. Forget I said anything. Continue.
Well, clearly not as many viewers can imagine it either because Sherlock Gnomes came in 4th at the box office this week. Didn't have the strongest opening they would have hoped for. But it's a follow-up to Romeo and Juliet, and it basically covers them moving to a new town in London. They're moving to London, and they move in, and all of a sudden all these gnomes and all the gardens throughout the city are disappearing. And so who on earth could they possibly call to solve the mystery except for Sherlock Gnomes and his trusty Watson, who doesn't get a fun like gnome pun, but I guess there's not as much you can do with that. So I found the movie to be pretty boring.
Really? Okay.
It just was not that entertaining. They were going for funny, and most of the jokes didn't stick. As you can imagine, most of the audience that was in there were families, lots of young kids, and even really the kids weren't laughing. And so that's when I really knew that just something was off if even the kids aren't enjoying the comedy.
Too much profanity or what?
No, it wasn't funny. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it just was very flatline. Didn't feel like it had any heart. Didn't feel like it had anything really to laugh out. There were a few like chuckles, but nothing too serious.
Well, the trailers felt that way to me as I watched the trailers. There's nothing that really is drawing me in. There's one scene of a dancing gnome in like a thong or something, and I'm like, I don't want to see that. Why would I want my kids to see that?
Yeah, and that was just my general attitude towards the whole film was like, why did I want to see this? It's just, like I said, very flatline film, recycled plot points, really nothing new to learn about any of the characters, just really one of the most unnecessary sequels I've seen, especially for an animated film. If there is a redeeming factor for this, the one thing I will say is, interestingly enough, they followed a lot of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's like Sherlock Holmes novels pretty well. Like it's got Moriarty, his arch nemesis, Irene Adler, his kind of love interest. A lot of the characters they used were from the Sherlock Holmes books, and a lot of the plot points were also from the books because I've always been a big fan of the book series, and so it was kind of interesting to see that they wove a lot of that together. But like I said, just as a whole, not that great of a film. I ended up giving it a D+.
Oh, D+. Okay, voice talent in this, Johnny Depp?
Johnny Depp as Sherlock Gnomes.
Okay.
Then you've got Emily Blunt, James McAvoy as Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
So, I mean, some great voice talent. I think Michael Caine's in there for a little while, but just not a good film.
D+.
Yeah,
Well, if you think D+ is bad, well, just hang around because I'm going to tell you about a movie called Unsane. It's a movie that I was intrigued by, a suspense thriller directed by Steven Soderbergh, who did some great films, Ocean's 11, Aaron Brockovich, Magic Mike, Logan Lucky. So he's a big name guy.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. Been around for a long time. So that intrigued me. Also, the movie was shot completely with iPhone technology. So from an experimental standpoint, really intrigued by what they can do because you can get some pretty good video on that. So I'm like, I'm interested. Some talent that you may recognize. Claire Foy is in this, and she's in The Crown. It's Queen Elizabeth, if you've seen the show The Crown. Also, Matt Damon has a cameo. He is a security expert, has a small role in this. The movie was shot with a budget of $1.2 million. Soderbergh, as I said, directed this. He really tries to put together this suspense thriller about a woman who is being stalked, and so she moves to a new town to try to kind of escape her past and get away from this stalker. But she's having these flashbacks and really having some uncomfortable situations pop up, and so she's trying to have a normal life, but it's just not happening. And so she decides to go to this treatment center just to maybe talk to somebody. Well, she ends up signing some paperwork that inadvertently gets her committed to.
We've all done that.
to a psychiatric evaluation for 24 hours. Then around every corner she starts seeing this stalker that she left behind, or does she? And so then you just kind of follow what happens after that. You know, I thought it was a really interesting concept, you know, creative risk-taking on the iPhone technology. And also I think Claire Foy was a great lead choice for this as well. But that's really where it ends. I mean, that's where the positive ends for me. It felt like an indie film, but not in a good way. As I was watching it, the lighting was horrible. Some of the shot selections were out of focus. I don't know how you do that if you're a professional. And also some of the shot selections had no purpose. I couldn't quite figure out what they were trying to do with this. They had a musical score, and they also had a sound design where they were just trying to use ambient sound, but the balance was off. You couldn't tell what the purpose of either one of these was. So it was kind of playing at odds with each other. The acting at times, other than Claire, it felt over-exaggerated, almost like your understudies for a weekend theater troupe where they couldn't get a job anywhere else. So all in all, I was really, really disappointed. It was a horrible film on multiple levels. It felt like a film festival reject. What I mean by that is it was an hour and 38 minutes long. 4 times I looked at my watch.
Ooh.
That's a bad sign.
4
That's not
times
a
I
good
looked
sign
at my
at all.
watch, and I'm thinking, okay, if I'm watching this as a film festival judge, some of my comments would have been all of these things, but I also would have said, if this had been a shorter film, as a film short, maybe. I really think this is one of those things that they were doing, the creativity, trying to be creative other than the substance of this. But for $1.2 million, I think they could have done a little bit better on this, especially bring in some studio lights. You know, do some better lighting. I'd really love to see a film shot with iPhone technology, but done well, and I think it can be done well.
Were they trying to shoot it with natural light? Was that
Yeah,
part of the
a lot
point?
of natural light, but to me it didn't have purpose. I mean, it didn't add to it. It didn't do anything for it. You know, if you're looking at films that have found footage type films, many times that found footage is purposeful. Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch. I mean, there's reasons that you have that, but for this, you know, if you didn't know it was shot with iPhone technology, you would just say, wow, that movie just didn't quite look right. Well, it's because the lighting and the way that they were framing and the out of focus shots. I was just really, really disappointed in this, and I blame Soderbergh. He had complete control over this. He went for experimentation over something that had meaning. And it really, it bothered me because the story, especially anytime, but especially during this time, the story of a woman being stalked and trying to find her voice for people to believe her is incredibly relevant now. It's always relevant, but I think now even more important. And then for it to be done so sloppily in this film bothered me even more. Now I'm really on the other side of the consensus. Rotten Tomatoes, I think it was like 73%.
Really?
And I'm far on the other side of this, I think the movie had potential if they paid more attention to the production value and to the story.
So you're saying it would have been better on an Android phone?
Yeah, maybe, or a GoPro.
Yeah.
Just strap a GoPro to your head.
All the characters just wear
Yeah,
GoPros.
that would have been better.
Well,
So-
I really admire them wanting to use the iPhone technology,
too.
but like, if you're going to do that, I would hope that they would want to use that to show just how impressive it is and how
Yep.
it really can stand on its own, and you can make a movie with that. And so it's kind of disappointing that for them to have used an iPhone, they used it in the worst way possible, as if like, you know, somebody on the street had picked up an iPhone and
Yeah,
tried to use
I'm
it.
right there with you because I think that if anything, this can give people the potential of, I could do that and do it better. And I think it can be done better. D- for me.
Wow.
Ooh.
D-, and I don't give that many D-, but the past few weeks I've given some Ds.
Yeah.
So
you're
for you,
giving-
those of
in a
you
bad
watching,
mood.
go watch Sherlock Gnomes instead of Unsane.
Did they shoot that with iPhones too?
No.
Okay, quick question.
Okay.
When it is lit well,
Yep.
how does that look projected? I mean, an iPhone video thrown that
Now
far
we'll
on a
say
big
this.
screen.
You know, it looked good. I mean, it looked
really
good
did
on
look all
screen.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see
Just from a technical
from a
standpoint.
technical standpoint. Yeah, but I think the way it was blown up on the screen. Yeah. I mean, if it had been lit well,
Yeah,
I'm probably would not have known it was shot with an iPhone.
that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what bothers me because I think to really do it, you could go out and say, hey, let's let's do this. I mean, we don't, you know, they didn't have any zooms, you know, they were
Right.
all, you know, just established shots, but you didn't have to have them. You know, you didn't have to have them.
Sounds like there's so much potential for
yeah,
that
yeah,
just
there
kind of went
is.
to waste.
There is. And I think what it can do is it can inspire people to go out and say, hey, I can do better than Soderbergh and do it for less money. Because the $1.2 million probably went to the salaries of Matt Damon, who was on screen for 2 minutes, and Claire Foy, and maybe Soderbergh's directing, because it sure didn't go into much of anything else. Let's go and talk about one more film, Imitation Girl. Give me a 2-minute overview of
All right.
Imitation Girl.
So 2-minute overview. So very interesting plot, just a small budget indie film. So it's an alien crash lands on Earth and takes the form of an adult film star. And so there's basically like 2 people with the same body walking around on Earth, and they both have to kind of learn with the complexities of being human and like both living as identical twins basically. So Juliana is the human, and she's kind of dealing with the emotional trauma of the business she's in and trying to get out of that.
Okay.
And then on the other side, you see the alien that's come to Earth really experiencing the beauty of life and what Earth has to offer as a human.
Huh.
So it's a really intriguing plot premise, but wasn't quite what I expected.
Okay.
Because the 2 girls, which is really the same actress,
Right.
obviously, only share about 2.5 minutes of screen time. And so for me, I didn't understand why they were identical if they aren't going to be on screen together. There was never really
So they're
any...
only on screen together like 2.5 minutes?
Yeah, for
Okay.
2.5 minutes they're on screen together, and it's never really established why they look identical, why they're the same, anything like
Right.
that. If I had to just make a guess, I would say it's more of a metaphor for how everyone in life experiences the good and bad of life, and so
Okay.
we see one of them experiencing only the bad and one of them really only experiencing the good. But even still, I think that kind of threw me off, because if you're going to use the same person to act in 2 parts, then I would hope that there would be more
Yeah.
of a purpose to it than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Really great cinematography, just these long panning shots over a lot of the Midwest. It was really beautiful to watch. And I think that just the main problem kind of relating to that is just the film thought it was a lot deeper than it was.
Okay.
It was a really interesting premise and had some really good points to make, but I think the film kind of felt self-important,
Okay.
which is always a danger for me and something that I don't like. So I gave it a C+. Still
Okay.
a pretty good viewing experience,
Okay.
but not great.
C+ for Imitation Girl.
So aliens coming to Earth and discovering porn.
Yeah.
That's one way to
If they
put it.
named it Aliens in Porn, it might have made more money over the weekend. I don't know.
But that's available to stream now, too.
Okay.
So I don't think it's hitting theaters. It just
Right.
went straight to
Straight
streaming.
to streaming. Okay. All right. Good deal. Well, we're
Wow.
going to come back. And also, one more thing about the movie I don't want you to go see from, what was that movie called that I recommended, that I did not recommend? What was it called?
Unsane?
Unsane.
Unsane.
See, I've forgotten the name of it. There were some unanswered story questions, too. There were Amy Irving starred in this as like the mom. And
I've seen her in a long time.
yeah, at one point, the stalker shows up at her room, at the mom's room, and then you don't know what happened after that, and they never address the mom again. They never address any of that, and so there were a lot of problems with Unsane. So I've forgotten because there's so many bad ones. We're going to take a break. We'll come back with more. We'll bring Catherine Manning out here. Christian, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's been good to be back.
and sorry you didn't get a chance to check out great movies this past week, but maybe, just hang around, maybe more. Greg Tillman there, Timothy Cricket back there with Catherine. We're going to take a break
Timothy Cricket.
right here on C19 TV.
Education is our most powerful tool to improve and change our world. Hi, I'm Rhonda Benfield, your host for School Matters. Join me for a new program every other week with information from and about the students and staff of Cleveland County Schools. Discover what our schools are doing to challenge students and help them reach their full potential. You can catch us on Spectrum Cable Channel 19 or stream us live on C19.tv.
Be a part of building the future. Be a welder. The Welding Technology program at Cleveland Community College prepares you with the science, the technology, and the skills to be a successful welder. Experienced instructors using state-of-the-art equipment train students using industry-standard skills developed through classroom training and practical application. Successful graduates are in high demand and are employed as entry-level technicians in welding and metalworking industries. Learn more about Cleveland Community College at 704-669-4077.
Hi, I'm Paula Best from Cleveland Connections, the show that explores what's happening at CCC. Join us as we sit down with members of faculty and staff to discuss programs of study, upcoming events, and other campus news. Watch each month on C19 or streaming online at C19 TV. Join us and connect with CCC.
Dean said that pointed to his head, said they have to have a brain to do that job. Well, I can think of a lot of people that would want it. That rules them out, Dean.
That's right. I mean, he is acting like a Republican today, folks. I'm so happy.
Just acting like I've always acted, Wayne.
Yeah, but you're even a little bit more. You're thinking about making America great. I know you are. But anyway.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me.
That song just makes my head just go like that. It just makes me dance. It makes me happy, Catherine. Welcome, Catherine. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. That's Catherine Manning. That is the Critics' Choice Scholar, Catherine Manning. I am Noel T. Manning II. This is Meet Me at the Movies. You're watching it right here on C19 TV, or if you're doing that podcast thing on demand, info at WGWG.org, and you can email us at info@c19.tv. Boss Hogg over there behind side camera one. I'm having a hard time talking, man. I'm still angry about Unsane. I'm still angry about that movie. I wasted an hour and 38 minutes of my time.
I know what we're going to do next week.
What?
If I can figure out the details, we're going to shoot this show on a phone.
Okay.
And we're going to use a Galaxy 8 this time. I don't have a 9, I'm sorry.
Let's do it. Ooh, what if we find like a Palm Trio phone or a BlackBerry and shoot it on that?
My daughter still has a flip phone.
Let's do it. Let's shoot the video. We're going to shoot. That's what we're going to do. We're going to show you how you can shoot a really bad show but make it look really good.
I think we do that every week here.
We do appreciate you spending time with us talking movies. Tim, you still alive back there? Yep. Oh, look, Christian's got the iPhone. He's shooting the show. He's shooting behind the scenes with an iPhone. Smart man.
I may need to edit
Way
that
to go.
into this.
We'll see what we can do with that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Catherine, I appreciate you being back with us. We missed you. I know you've been out changing the world, been all over the place. We're glad you're back for this week, and you've got quite a few things to talk about. We were going to talk about Lady Bird for home delivery. We may not get to that, so we are switching that around. We're going to do
I don't even know if I want to talk about it.
You don't even know if you want to talk about it. But we do want to talk about Take 5. We're going to talk about Take 5, and we're going to let you... Greg is actually shooting this with his iPhone. Look at that.
Christian inspired
That's pretty
me.
cool.
Christian
inspired him.
this is an Android.
This
Oh,
is an
Android.
it is a phone, though.
Yeah,
it is a phone.
it is a phone.
So give us your Take 5 this week. Sandra Bullock has a new movie opening up, and it's a spinoff of a Soderbergh film that was a remake. I can get all that out there. Soderbergh did Ocean's 11. This is Ocean's 8. It's coming out shortly, and we started thinking, let's talk about some essential Sandra Bullock films that everybody needs to check out.
Okay, well, my first one, I've mentioned this before, it's The Proposal. It's one of my all-time favorite romantic comedies. It has Sandra Bullock, and it has Ryan Reynolds, Betty White, and it's just this great movie. Basically, Ryan Reynolds' character and Sandra Bullock's character work together, and Sandra is the boss, and she's mean and nasty, and
I know all about that kind of stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Ryan, Ryan's character hates her, but she ends up they're about to deport her because she's from Canada and her visa has expired. So she pretends to be engaged to Ryan Reynolds' character, and they have to travel to his hometown and kind of carry on this ruse of an engagement. And It's funny and it has a lot of heart. There's a great scene of Betty White and dancing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it has
Betty
everything.
White is just awesome anyway.
She can do no wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
I love Betty White.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
the proposal on your list for Take 5, Sandra
Yes.
Bullock films, everyone should see. Okay, what's the next one and why?
The Blind Side.
Blind Side. Okay, a different side of Sandra Bullock.
Yes, and this is one reason why I really liked it. Based on a true story, she plays a mom who adopts a son in, I think it's in Memphis, it's set in Memphis, and he's had just a very difficult life. But she kind of fosters his love of football and just really takes him in as her own.
Yeah.
And so it just has a lot of heart as well. And it's just a side of Sandra Bullock I had never seen. It was a very serious, honest side, and I've seen interviews with the woman that she actually played, Leanne
Right.
Toohey,
Yeah.
and she took on her persona.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed, I mean, there's not much of a difference between the two. They're
Yeah,
the same.
you get a real sense of the ability that she has as an actress. Okay,
Right,
number
right.
3 on your list.
Number 3, 2 Weeks Notice. I've
Okay.
mentioned this one before as
Hugh
well.
Grant, yeah.
Hugh Grant, Sandra Bullock, wonderful chemistry, a lot of fun. Sandra Bullock is a lawyer who is, you know, an environmentalist, and she works for Hugh Grant's character, who is basically against all of those
Yeah, he's
things.
completely the opposite of who she is.
Yes, so it just follows that story, and it's just very, very good writing, very witty, and they really bounce off of each other
Yeah,
well.
their chemistry works really, really well too. That's
Right.
called 2 Weeks Notice. All right,
Yes.
number 4 on your list of Sandra Bullock, essential Sandra Bullock films.
Number 4 is Speed. It's her breakthrough film. It's an action-adventure movie, actually, and I, before seeing this, I had only seen her in, you know, comedies, romantic comedies.
Right.
So it was just very interesting to see her in this.
So
It's
you
with-
went back to watch this
Right,
after,
I-
you've
yeah.
known her as a romantic comedy.
It came out in 94, 95, before I was
Yeah,
born.
you weren't even born, yeah.
So,
Look at Greg over there. He's like, wait a minute, before
I think I was 60 when it came out.
but it's a great film as well. And it has Keanu Reeves, and it has a great story. Basically, they're on a city bus. There's a bomb on it, and if they go below 55 miles per hour, the bus will blow up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very suspenseful, a lot of good action, and just a really interesting story. But it's also, you see the characters change as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good character
Yeah,
arcs.
yeah, fun adventure action film. All right, number 5 on your list.
Number 5, Miss Congeniality.
Okay, all right.
So Sandra Bullock in this plays a woman who is an FBI agent, and she has been charged with going undercover in I think it's called the Miss USA pageant, not Miss America, but Miss USA. And so she has to go in, and she's like very, like, she does not like being ladylike. She doesn't like any
Yeah.
of that stuff. She's very like,
She's a fish out of water.
right. It's a very fish out of water film. So it's just fun to see her navigate this new path.
We'll wrap things up with a movie quote of the week. This quote comes from Sherlock Holmes. And this kind of is really the way I feel about Greg sometimes. You know, I never complain.
What?
You know, when do I complain about you practicing the violin at 3 in the morning? Or your mess? Or your general lack of hygiene? Or the fact that you steal my clothes? When? When do I ever complain about that?
Okay, first of all, I don't think I've ever been around you at 3 a.m. Just want to clear that up.
We do appreciate you watching and spending time with us right here on Meet Me at the Movies. Catherine Manning over there. Greg Tillman over there beside camera 1. Back on the mission control, Christian and Tim Foster. Until next time, I'm Noel T. Man II. For Meet Me in the Movies, that is a wrap.
Happy trail.